Hello. You should be able to see us now. Hello, friends. How we doing? I can already see Zane's in chat. How we doing, Zane? Thank you for the medal, my boy. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, so we're up and running. Kate, we're ready to kick off when you are, my guy.
All right. Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's have some fun. All right. 1 second. All right.
Straight in my ears. Just no regrets there.
Well, this is what you get. For you deciding to sneeze like a dad when you were here. So
yep,
this is
fair.
This is what you deserve. All right. Here we go. Welcome to the OWTF Sound Bath. We hope you enjoy the Zen-filled ruminations and discussions surrounding the following film. So welcome back, bitches and bros and my non-binary hoes. I am that soulless do-gooder, that hardly newer, also known as Keegan, also known as K, and anything else you can think of. And I too get very nervous when my mother introduces me to people, mainly because it means I'm either dreaming, dead, or experiencing the after effects of a brownie Naf gave me and told me not to ask any questions. And this man over here is that if Burning Man was gayer looking Mayan with that I could be a monk in the mountains je ne sais quoi, also known as Naf, also known as Nathaniel, also known as the second coolest Aussie on this show. Would you like to?
Hey.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the collective?
Hello, I am Naf, and I see your insult thrown at me, but I believe in higher thoughts beyond that of basic human, shitty, fucking piece of shit, white American bullshit. So I will let it pass. Thank you.
Higher thoughts. I hardly know him. And lastly, but not leastly, if I had a nickel for every time an Australian brought a film about a haunted house, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot. But it's weird that it happened twice, right? Well, it's not that weird if you're familiar with this Criterion guru, this purveyor of the cinematic landscape, this savior of lost films, this jukebox of movie recommendations that goes so deep into the bowels of the term unique that you have to do extra research just to find the budget. This is the man, the myth, the master, Nalbus, also known as Jim. Jim, would you like to put your essence out into the universe with us? Ooh, good form.
And for our audio listeners,
yes, care to describe, Naf, describe what was just happening in detail.
it was magical, it was beautiful, it was wonderful. If I stabbed him in the heart right now, I think he would bleed gold.
I believe him.
Spoilers! Oh my freaking god, dude. I'm so excited to be on the show with my friends again. And yes, I do have a thing for the haunted house. It's my favorite. I love to walk around and get spooked out of my mind. It's my favorite. Anyway.
Oh, beautiful.
Hello.
Absolutely.
Welcome. Well, we're glad to have you back.
Welcome, everybody, all. Absolutely. Jim, it is so good to have you here. Obviously, you were here with the movie House last season, which I do believe was up for a couple of One with the Filmies, the most prestigious award known to man. And I will say, I believe you also won our single-handedly is keeping the Criterion Collection in business award. And so I do believe you truly are you're doing the Lord's work is what I'm saying.
You are. It's beautiful.
Look, I don't know where this Criterion thing comes from because they don't even release Criterion in Australia. I don't have any Criterions, bro. We got Umbrella. We got
You just feel like you have Criterion energy is sort of the vibe.
I literally have 0 Criterions in my collection. I don't know where this has come from.
That is actually really funny. That is actually really funny to me.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm glad I exude that, so maybe like they'll let me into the
It is
closet,
the
and
highest of
finally
homegrown compliments.
I'll obtain the Criterion copy of House, and I believe they actually released a touch. These are both Criterion releases, actually. Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah,
so it works
absolutely.
out. Eh?
It definitely tracks with it all. But
Okay,
Naf,
just on for 1 second. I'm frozen on my screens right now. What can you see on the YouTube stream? Like, are we frozen or?
right now I don't see, but it always takes us a second. So let's see here. I see
We
us
got
continuing to
Jen's got
move.
it.
Okay.
And they're moving. We're moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, all
So
good.
my what's it called? Thingamajiggy.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good.
Okay. Give me 1 sec here. Let me just
All good.
refresh the page.
6 and 6:48 is the time code for that.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, everything looks fine on this end, but it's just it's frozen on my OBS screen, so that's really odd. Give me 1 quick sec.
Mm-hmm. I wrote it down in our notes.
Okay, that is being wild. Just my OBS is completely frozen, but everything else is still like it's running perfectly fine. So give me 1 second. I'm just going to close OBS and then jump us back in.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, I'm seeing there are two random dudes.
There's two random dudes, and we're the two
let's
random
see.
dudes, and Naf is talking to them. Naf, come back.
I'll come back.
Who are you talking to?
All right, I think we should be back on now, and we should be good.
This guy always looks though like this guy always has like this a deeply attentive face.
Oh, there you go. I'm back.
All right, I think we're back. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see
all right.
it.
I see me back, and then I'm there. We go. We got Jim back.
Okay, and microphones are on. Everything looks good to me. Sorry about that, guys. I think my graphics card just like reset because my whole computer flashed, and then it came back and everything was frozen, and I was like, okay, fuck me, I guess. I don't know.
That's sick.
Yeah. Kate, can you time code that again for me, my man?
Absolutely. I'll time code the like about 8:19.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. Well, we were basically going to get straight into the segue from there, so it worked out all right. Instead of butting in before, I was like, I know we're frozen for a minute or so, but I'm just going to wait. So I'll kick us in from the segue. So as a reminder, you can find One With The Films on all your podcasting platforms of choice, as well as live and on demand right here. And if you're in the live chat, please feel free to join the conversation. We always love to hear from you. And if you're listening on demand, don't worry, we still love you. Fun time.
Absolutely. Of course we do. You're just, I mean, you guys are just keeping us alive is sort of the thing there, you know, and it's just such a beautiful thing. But, you know, all that being said, Naf, why don't you tell us a little bit more of what we're doing today?
Hell yeah. Well, today we're doing an episode of the Weekly Watch List. And the Weekly Watch List is what happens when a bunch of friends with unique and wonderful taste in films have tried too hard for too long to finally share and discuss their favorite films with one another. And if you've been around for a while, you already know the shtick. For any newcomers, however, the idea is that with every episode, at least one person is watching the nominated film for the first time. It's all about having a space for creators to share the art that matters most to them and give them a platform to show us all why. So if you like listening to a bunch of nerds geek out and force each other to watch and then discuss their favorite films for the first time, feel free to follow or subscribe. Send us to your friends, and if you like, you can activate notifications so you never miss a new episode. Just at a different time of the day, of course. And of course, we're on all your favorite socials as well, so links are in the description below for the podcast and all of our channels individually as well. Okay. Pumped.
Absolutely. But, you know, today we're with a very special guest and everything there. And I will say, you know, Jim, what?
Yes.
What? What is a film that people have not seen enough?
Oh, what is a film that people have not seen enough? I could name many, my friend. There's many out there, but specifically, let's go into my little pile here. So, okay. Yeah, here we go one here for you boys. It's a little film called A Touch of Zen, Jianu from director King Hu. This is a beautiful little wuxia film, one of my favorites of all time, 3 hours long, and it tells the tale of a girl next door, the scholar next door, and the journey they go towards some form of enlightenment. It's beautiful.
Yes, unclear as to what that enlightenment may be, but yet we will discover that all together.
We will find
It's
out.
just enlightenment, man. It's just
we will find it. It's just general enlightenment.
It's just
it just has like I just imagined it sitting with a cigarette and like a glass of whiskey and just being like, what the fuck do you think enlightenment is? You think you're enlightened? Shut the fuck up. And just like kicks me out of his office.
It just is what it is, bro.
It's it is. It's a vibe. It ain't that deep, bro. But
don't think much about it.
Exactly. Don't think too much about it.
Time travel, guys. Come on. Don't think about time travel.
But can you tell us in one sentence why you chose this film?
Why I chose this film? I believe that this film is the 2001 Space Odyssey of the wuxia genre.
Ooh.
It is cinematic transcendence of a genre.
It's great. That is.
I don't know if any of that showed up on my, but Naf and I were giving him snaps.
Somebody clip that. That is.
Yeah, somebody clip it. That's the trailer right there.
And that's for those of you that don't know, we actually finished season 2. Our season finale was 2001: A Space Odyssey. So, you know,
nice linking up
with one of the best. You know? Exactly, with one of the best film essayists out there, Artur. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely check it out. But let's focus on here. And Naf, I'm going to just go like, how much did everybody know about this film? Naf, why don't you start us off?
Well, I chose this film, so, you know, I definitely knew the most. I speak Taiwanese as well, so I've actually just been on the internet in
Interesting, because it was in Mandarin, wasn't it? Or is that like...
to look up the budget and find all of this stuff.
It's just Mandarin, yeah.
Well, shut up. So anyway,
so how well did your Taiwanese help you when just like?
Well, I found the budget. I did it all on my own. I didn't have
made up language
from the homeland, so we're good. No, but I didn't know this film existed. I always get excited when we reach out to Jim to go, hey, let's pick a movie. I remember we sent out when we were looking for guests for season 3. I'm like, hey, what have you got? And you had a couple of films in mind you wanted to choose. And you went for this one, the media one. I've actually watched both films that you were kind of tossing up between as well, just because I wanted more to talk about. So to answer your question, Kay, like, no idea that this existed. Though, when I had heard that this was one of the films that inspired like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I got to watch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon for the first time in cinemas last year with a live studio orchestra, which was that was so good.
Oh my god!
So I got to experience that for the first time. I love it. Jen in chat
the drums would be crazy.
There's like
and it's yours too. And
mine as well.
Your language.
Please.
The drums, I like live Crouching Tiger. That would have been crazy. There's like that opening sort of fight sequence between Zhang Ji and Michelle Yeoh, and it's all just drums. I couldn't imagine that. That'd be crazy.
Awesome. And they had a solo celloist there as well, I believe, that was doing most of the main. It was actually phenomenal. Not only is the film great, but the experience was awesome too. So hearing and then seeing how this inspired, that was an awesome experience. So yeah, great pick. I knew nothing going in. I had a great time. What about you, Kay? What was your experience with this, Mr. Film School?
I mean, I feel like now I have even less than you because, like, you know, I'm like you within the span of a week in typical Naf versus K fashion. I finished the film. You finished 6, in response to just like needing to finish the one. And so I honestly,
martial arts film are about to become my special interest. It's autism is about to happen. Let's go.
I believe that,
dude. I've already been there. Been there, done that.
Like it's one of those things where like it's been something that's been on my radar. Like a lot of, you know, general like cinema around like you know, these kind of films has never necessarily been on. Not that they've never been on my radar. It's just always been one of those things that I find trying to get into it. It's like It's kind of like the similar problem I have for anime for me is I'm like, I have no doubt I'll love this. I have no doubt this is going to be great, but it's getting over that hump of like, where do you even start kind of thing. And this
is not where you start, by the way. This is not where you start.
I figured as much from the conversations we had off mic, but it was a very interesting thing to be able to then learn about the genre as a byproduct of watching this film. So like Naf, I had very limited knowledge of this going into it, but I'm very intrigued to learn more about it all as we continue to go forward. But Jim, obviously you're the one that picked this film despite Naf's claims, and you just where did you discover this film? What was kind of the going into it, and like why do you think it's kind of stuck with you ever since?
Well, okay. Well, like as Naf said, I too have a big special interest in freaking wuxia. I love this genre. I remember discovering it like a few years ago, really diving deep into it. Like I watched the Grandmaster, the Wong Kar-wai film, and I saw a couple of it's like Choi Hark films. But then it was when I saw Crouching Tiger, like obviously it just gave me this childlike wonder that I'd never really felt before. It was like this like I don't know, when people describe a movie making me feel like a kid again, it was like I didn't really ever sort of quite latch onto that with like a lot of like the kinds of movies people would say that with. And I watched Crouching Tiger, and I'd never seen the movie before, but just the pure raw excitement of seeing like these feats of impossibility just made me feel like a kid. I was just jumping with joy, jumping with glee, and I was like, I'm obsessed. Like I didn't realize like how much I loved something like martial arts and wuxia until that point of watching that film. And so then I just went down the rabbit hole, and I didn't get to Touch of Zen for a while, but it was something that I was aware of, specifically through Ang Lee's reference to being majorly inspired by the film. So it took me a few years to get to it, but I just remember watching. I think I watched Touch of Zen first, and just once again feeling not only that like childlike wonder with it, but also just this like I don't know, just this like this transcendent feeling to like the way it all ends and sort of trying to piece it together. And I was like, I need to see more stuff from King Hu. Then I watched Dragon Inn, and I was like, oh, this is the childlike, like fun, like, oh my God, this is great. And I went back to A Touch of Zen and just got like a whole new sort of like read on it as well. I'm assuming Naf, you're going to have the same experience revisiting it as well. But I mean, that was sort of just, it was a part of my wuxia journey. But discovering King Hu was like, just finding the foundation of this genre that I was in love with. He sort of creates the cinematic form of this genre, and it's just like you see all the pieces together, and it's like, how did he just have it all together from the very beginning, and how did he just perfect the cinematic version of this visual genre that's existed for thousands of years through literature and through the like stage, through the Peking opera and all that stuff. He just had it, so it just captured me basically. That was all. Like
it's really telling too that you opened with it's the 2001 A Space Odyssey of it all, because it very much is in the same sense that when you grow up and you watch your Star Warses and any other sci-fi that kind of exists, and you go back and watch 2001 A Space Odyssey, there is a part of you that is a bit like, hold on, isn't this from like a billion years ago? Like, because it's not so much in the visual effects part, but it's in like how Kubrick shot certain things that you go, this feels like I could see if a Star Wars was happening right now, that it would be using this cinematic language. Like you set the language, and you very much feel that in A Touch of Zen too. It's awesome. And there's one thing as well, just for listeners too, because wuxia is a subgenre of like the Chinese martial arts kind of film. Like there's specific things that make it like wuxia and make it not like kung fu. Like from what I was reading, correct me if I'm wrong, that it was like you have your hand-to-hand combat films or your kung fu films, and then wuxia specifically is like this when there's swords, and it's like that kind of and then obviously you have your other themes that tie into it as well.
Yeah,
because it's the chivalry and the kind of honor code that comes with that. Is
yeah.
that right?
Wuxia is this very broad thing. I like, as far as I know, and I got my partner here who probably just like, no, you're wrong. But it is very much like just like
we've got this.
I did think it was.
I
This
think
is our
it's-
whitest episode. Like, it's the
This
same
is
thing there.
100%. But I think
will remind
wuxia
viewers,
is
I'm a
very.
minority.
There you go.
Like, technically, I am too. So
Well done.
like.
You were saying, Jim.
I got an Italian gene somewhere.
Oh, sick.
Exactly.
I'll find it.
So all you got to do is, as you explain it, say it like this, and then it's not racist, and it's not anything else.
Oh yeah. It's that the.
Molto bene. Ananas trattore.
Oh, we lost Jim.
Is
Wow,
sort of in the way that like Jedi
Jim's
Geki
Italian.
is samurai.
Oh, go
Italian-
back and repeat yourself because your Italian just made you lag.
It overloaded the mainframe.
I'm back. Okay, I'm back. No, so wuxia, like the Jedi Geki of like samurai, it's like historical drama sort of thing set with like heroes. I think the wuxia is like martial heroes or chivalrous heroes or something along those lines, that are able to do these like impossible, flying and floating. That's sort of the idea is what it is so more focused on. I at least say.
Yeah.
And
Kind of
heroes,
a touch of-
like
like a
trophy
touch of
heroes and stuff
fantasy.
as well.
Like a touch of fantasy to it.
Yeah, exactly. There's like a fantasy element to it that's like sort of like it's like unobtainable, sort of like it's not just
Enlightenment.
hand-to-hand combat fighting. Yeah.
No, and I think that it is like, because it's shocking in a sense when you watch a film like this, and all of a sudden, like I remember seeing Crashing Tiger, and she's just running, and then all of a sudden she's running on the wall and then running on the roof, and you're a bit like, okay, but where was the training montage? Is what I'm waiting for the film bros to say.
No, yeah.
Or like, oh well, you didn't aim for his head. It's
Yeah,
but
Yeah,
it is.
no.
It's really interesting, and it's very unique. And like we were saying, that visual and the cinematic language it's a little shocking sometimes to see those kind of bunny hops, and you're like, what is going on? But you're so like in it. You're like, I've already drank the Kool-Aid. Like I'm here. That when it happens, I'm like, oh, look at it.
Yeah,
Go.
true.
Jump off the bamboo. Do the flip. Come on, do it. It is that childlike kind of wonder. You don't give a shit.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, you just sort of like forgive it for like it's like the artifice. Like it has like this like you can identify. You're seeing the seams of it. You're like, there's trampolines, there's wires, there's all this stuff. But I love it all the more for being able to see sort of how it's done.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the magic behind the trick behind the magic as well, which kind of gets revealed later in the film as well when Gu plays the tricks on the bad guys. You sort of see the seams behind his little trickery that he pulled there. Anyway, we'll get to that later.
I'm excited. It's gonna be a great chat.
Absolutely.
What I can do
well,
for
I guess
us-
Naf, do you want to dive into the fun facts?
Yeah, awesome. Well, I can definitely go into a little bit. I'm doing a little bit of research here. I couldn't find everything because some information on this film is quite elusive. But we've got some stuff here. So, originally released in Taiwan in 2 parts with a total runtime of 3 hours and 20 minutes. However, when the 2 parts were combined by King Hu without any repeated scenes in 1975, the total runtime came down to 2 hours and 59 minutes. Supposedly, there's an original cut of the film which sat at a light 400 minutes, but no print is believed to have survived up until today. It was restored to 4K in 2015, but it did make its theatrical debut for part 1 and 2 in 1971, or I believe part 1 was like late 1970 and part 2 was like 1971, something like that. But neither part brought in very much money at all, blowing out its budget to over 20 million Taiwanese dollars or 613,000 US dollars. The film brought in about 680,000 Hong Kong dollars, which sounds impressive until you convert it to USD when it becomes about $80,000. So not ideal for 2 films. We have, what was it, in US, $613,000 budget, $80,000 box office.
Womp womp.
Not ideal for 2 films. So they actually ended up cutting it all the way down to 2 hours 30 for a release in Hong Kong. Still didn't do well. It started to get its flowers when Who finished that 3-hour cut that I mentioned earlier for the premiere at Cannes in 1975, where it won the technical
Yeah.
prize and was nominated for the prestigious Palme d'Or. King
Mm-hmm.
Hu for this film actually went as far as having a whole village constructed that cost $42,000 US, and then he left it
Mm-hmm.
alone for 9 months for some natural weathering.
Mm-hmm.
Production for this film went over a 3-year period, so we know it mustn't have been obviously like cheap overall. And in writing the film, I saw that King Hu based a screenplay on Xianu from Strange Stories from a Chinese Studio, an anthology book from Pu Songling. Because of its commercial flop, I also read that Hu never really reached for the stars quite like he did in this one after this. And he didn't really make any sort of other wuxia films that were this experimental, or sort of experimental as the finale was. His production company, Union Films, naturally lost a lot of money on this magnum opus, and it responded by producing fewer wuxia films in favor of contemporary set dramas. He did continue making wuxia films, but kept them far more grounded in typical notions of chivalry, politics, and strategy. He also never really made another film so focused on the female errant knight trope either. However, directors such as Ang Lee were inspired by his work, and it resulted in films such as Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which went on to win an Academy Award. And the Criterion Collection edition of this film actually contains an interview with Ang Lee about King Hu and how he inspired him, along with a documentary about King Hu's life as well. I think that's the one you were talking about, Jim, that 4-hour one.
I don't know if that was the one, because the one that the 4-hour one came out in 2022, and I think the Criterion would have came out earlier. So there must be a shorter one on the Criterion, but there is a long one out there. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's what I found. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that at all, Jim?
You pretty much nailed it. Like that's pretty much the broad strokes of it all.
That's what I do. Hey, that's what I do. Well, Kay, do you want to give us a quick spoiler alert, and then let's jump into the chat?
Of course I do. Well, before we go any further, all of these conversations are not spoiler free, just to be clear. We're not doing a play-by-play, but we are talking about the film with the expectation that you've already seen it. It's always cool to go and watch the film and then come back later. But even if you haven't seen the film, chances are we'll convince you to finally make that leap. And if you want to know what film to watch in advance, you can also just come and listen to us and then get prepared for next week. Links are in the description for all of our socials, so check us out there. And if you listen all the way to the end of today's episode, we will also be revealing our next film and guest right here. But until then, let's go.
Well, one of the things that came up that we wanted to talk about was, particularly you mentioned this one, Jim, which was the music in the film and how it follows kind of a Chinese opera style of music. Why don't you kick us off talking about your what's on your mind there?
Well, I mean, like the music is like a huge standout in these movies. Like I love the way the clicking is such like this like iconic thing in King Hu's films. It's just like that tension building, like click, 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 click. And I didn't really know where that came from. I never like really seen anything quite like that, especially even like I've watched a bunch of wuxia films. I've never seen anything quite like that. And it wasn't until I watched it with my Yeah, like all King Hu's films has that as like the musical staging of the film. And I was like, I've never seen anything like this before. I never heard anything like this before. And it just adds this new like rhythmic like tension to everything, like and it times with the music really well, which is something you don't really see in like these like especially the wuxia films. You don't really see like the music time like that with the cuts, with everything like that. So there's such like a purpose to like the way it's done, and it does have its roots back in like Peking opera and stuff. There'll be like live stage performances, and there'll be specific instrumentation, specific things, specific sounds that'll be used to like identify different characters and different moments and different things that are happening in the film, and or in the stage production as well. I just love the use of that, and there's all these like repeated, like very very repeated motifs that for like each character as well, like their introductions and all that. Yeah, I just love like just the feel of the music and just what it adds to it. It's not just you're just throwing a musical score over it. It's like it's almost like it's not what's the word, diegetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it feels diegetic. Like it feels like there's people off camera that are like tapping sticks and
Yeah.
clanging stuff together. Like it feels like so just a part of the experience. Yeah.
And I was reading that like that is so intentional, particularly with this film, and it was very different from kind of wuxia films up to this point,
Yeah.
which I thought was really interesting. And one of the things that stood out to me in this film a lot was not just the music itself and how beautiful it is and how particularly like the instrumentation, but how it's almost using music in the opposite sense than films, or particularly any films that have fight choreography in them may these days. You watch a John Wick, you watch a Star Wars, you watch whatever coming up now, music kicks in and swells up during the fight scenes. And here, it almost, it's gone. You have only like
Yeah.
the sound of the swords clanging, and it's this very loud,
The clangs. Yeah.
very loud clang. That's just it's so loud, and it's giving weight to like this isn't fun right now. This is people fighting for their life, and I love that in the choreography in this, it doesn't feel like, what's the word? Like, while you see it's practiced and it's an art and they're kind of dancing, there's so much of there's so many beats in between, and you have all of these moments of like, I've got this is a sword right now, okay, where it's like, yeah, and the people are like, like they're almost like, oh, I'm a little scared to go, I kind of want to, and you have all of these little moments, and then
Yeah.
like, all right, and then go, and then it's like, all right, and which way are you gonna go, which way, and then bang, and so there's so much of that, like there's so much effort in there to make it feel like these people are fighting for their lives, and it's not fun. I thought it was a wickedly cool touch.
Yeah. It's like there's like a rhythm to everything. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Kay, what about for yourself? Like any takeaways with the music in particular in this film?
I mean, like you guys said, what I think is very interesting, and obviously with your guys' knowledge of this genre, like what I do think is very interesting and how it plays into the film overall thematically is that idea of the kind of almost feeling like people are off screen, you know, tapping sticks together and things there. It adds a very unique flavor to the film, but also going with the idea of like, what is real? What isn't real? What is this kind of thing there? I like that he was playing on kind of those meta questions a bit too, where it's almost like, oh, we're going to put this a little bit in the soundscape to make you question your own reality in that regard. And as you're saying, Nav, like I love when films, I mean, you do kind of see it even in stuff like John Wick, where it's like when people take the fighting, while it is fantasy, take it seriously.
Yeah.
Where it's like where people are behaving realistically. Like you're not going to have people that are doing even as much as people love the prequel fights in Star Wars, it's like there isn't a anticipation. They know what the next move is. So there just is this kind of clean choreography that's incredible. It looks great. But in a real fight, you're trying to anticipate a move. You're trying to try, and you're like, it is that, is this my opening? And it's like, which I do think is a very cool touch that I always love about, I don't know, a good action fight is just making me feel like this was a bit real.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And one of the things that I think is really interesting, so a lot of the info that I got from about this movie was from deepfocusreview.com. There's a big essay there that talks about the film beforehand, breaks down a bunch of stuff that's going on there. But in here as well, it also says that who oversaw every aspect of his production, so including music, costumes, lighting, editing, props, and sets, ensuring that each element worked in unison with his themes. So you could really see that come through here. And it's beautiful.
He began as a set designer. He started his career as a set designer in Hong Kong. So he's like got such an eye for the little details as well, which I love. You can
absolutely.
see that in yeah.
Well, I mean, continue. The art direction is just incredible.
I think even there was
it is incredible. Yeah,
the opening of the film with these beautiful landscapes. I think it reminded me a lot of when I watched Ran for the first time on the flight to LA, and
oh my god,
it's like you hear about movies from back here, and you don't think about them as being colorful. You think about, oh, this is really close to like when things were black and white, so like it's probably going to be they're just figuring out color. And it's like, no, like everything pops like crazy. And particularly when you get to like the desert sequence at the end of the film, that reminded me a lot of in Ran as well, where he's kind of on his own out there and people are finding him, and you've just got all these people in. You identify them by their colors, the yellow robes and the red robes and the blue robes, and you know kind of who's who. I was blown away by the color in this film as well. I didn't anticipate it to be so shiny.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
it links up very much to like the stage peaking opera thing of it, because it's like the way you want, and this is also like with like the way they perform in the fights and stuff. You want the people in the back rows of the theater to see every movement, every character. So putting everyone in bright colors and having all the movements be so timed, exaggerated. Every head movement is timed. Every eye is so big and stands out so much. Every hand movement is so just like big and reaching and everything like that. It's for the people in the back row to see. And it's like King Hu is like, even though we're in cinema, even though we're in film, even though we're up close, we're still going to incorporate that language into it. It's like everyone moves in time, heads turn in time with the music, everyone stands, stops, that hitting a marks. It's like it feels like they're doing a dance. It feels like they're doing choreography for the stage. It feels like it's for an audience in the back row. That's what I love about the feel of it all. Yeah. And that goes with the costumes and choreography. But
and I think that, as you were saying too, kind of it does bring us into a little bit of like the cinematography as well, because like as you said, Jim, like he's trying to make it feel like we're watching a stage play, and that comes across in how he's filmed this, and particularly how it's edited and how the camera moves, and how everything is kind of staged as well. You can't talk about the cinematography without talking about the bamboo fight sequence. You know, it is also very different to the one in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. We don't have balancing on things at the top and jumping from side to side, but you have the bamboo forest. We've got people bouncing off the walls, and kind of the bunny hopping and chasing people through the forest, which is all really interesting as well. But Kay, I know you had some thoughts on the cinematography in this film. I'd love to start with you.
Yeah. I mean, as you guys were talking about, like the one thing that was like standing out to me just the entire film, it was the use of color, it was the use of how everything was put together. And it makes sense when you were talking about that he came from set design, because one of the things I thought was very impressive about this film was the mise-en-scène of every shot. Because a lot of times a rookie thing that I feel for cinematographers is very much this, they don't use production design and the architecture of whatever environment they're in to their advantage. But obviously, when you come from a set design background, you come from a creation that's how your brain works, right? Yeah. And just the way that all of these shots were articulated. I love a good wide shot. I love a good wide shot where, you know, just like every one of these shots felt like a painting. It felt lived in. It felt like everything was a choice. It felt like everything was there. And there's just something to those kind of films that always makes me feel very cared for as an audience member. It felt very Spielbergian in how Spielberg will use like the movement of the camera and the revealing of information. It's just so complex, but he makes it look so effortless. And Jim, I don't know if you felt this similar thing, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are with how the cinematography paints the picture of this film. But was there anything when you're watching this? Obviously, we know how this inspires stuff like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but like, was there anything about this that really affected you in that way? Like, kind of made you feel just, I don't know, was there anything from the cinematography that you were taking away from it?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I always get blown away by the use of natural light in the movie.
Oh, yes.
Like that's what's so different about this, is because where King Hu started, he was doing set design, stuff like that for Shaw Brothers films in Hong Kong. So they go along and do this line of like martial arts films, but they're very, very, very cheaply made. They're shot on studio sets. They're on sound stage. That's how they would do it. It's how they would approach it, and they'd reuse sets and all that stuff. King Hu is like going out of his way to be like, we're going out into the forest. We're going out at exactly 3:45 to get you standing here, so the light's hitting you here, the light rays are hitting you from behind, and we're getting the smoke to come in to make sure those light rays are coming down to make you look this way in this shot, and the shot will last 0.2 seconds or something like that. Like it's that minute detail. Is like he is like, I'm framing all of these shots, and there'll be rarely reused shots. It'll be like, we're getting this shot for this point, and we're getting it at this time because the sun is right here, the light's coming through here. Let's get the smoke going, and all the smoke in this film is not like smoke machines. They're just burning logs in the background. So they're getting all this smoke going. Every shot has smoke, and getting the light to come in, all this natural light.
That's insane.
That's what stands out to me about this, because so many of the martial arts films that I see, a lot of them are shooting on soundstage studios, but he's using the natural environment to his advantage. He's building these big villages in like actual real locations, getting the light to interact, and rarely ever using like studio lights or studio set. It's just smoke and mirrors and the sun. Like, and that's what's beautiful about it.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I think that it touches on Kay's point as well around like the level of care for the craft, to be like, hey, I'm doing this for you. And as you said, for this 0.2 second scene that I need this to be perfect, it's like you could, like, it's like you didn't have to, but you did. And I appreciate that you did. And I feel like it's something that in this day and age, where there's a lot of conversation around like, you know, things aren't kind of like the same a lot, when you particularly look at the big things that are constantly like marketed and thrown in your face, and come watch this, give us money, we spent $250 million on this, please. They don't quite feel like that. They feel like you spent so much money on this film, but like, where did it go? Where's the care? Even in like TV shows now that have a lot more money going into them too, that you go like, it's like, this is like the Better Call Saul of it, where you're like, you've got all this other stuff happening around this, like House of the Dragon, bombastic, crazy, insane shit, and like this one little character piece that opens with a cold open of a bunch of ants eating ice cream is like, you didn't have to do that, but like, it works.
But I'm glad you did.
And I appreciate the effort. Or like, you didn't have to shove your little Blackmagic 8K camera inside fucking bin to get this shot of one little shot of him putting his chicken in there, but you did, and I appreciate it. It's like that effort goes a long way. It's like when your partner does something really nice for you without you asking, and it's just like, oh, you don't have to.
Oh, it is, and you can feel the difference. I mean, it's like in you know, the difference between just an adaptation of something that's a reboot for reboot's sake, and something like Steven Spielberg's 2022 film West Side Story, which like, you know, just his ability to just tell something with heart, and that's just what this film does, is just the ability to actually, you know, when you have a desire to tell this story and you have a desire to tell it in a specific way, the art shows itself, and the idea of care and brilliance, it just comes onto the screen, and anyone who doesn't agree, you're just not a film fan. I'm sorry. You just don't, if you can't recognize the brilliance of that kind of stuff, what are we doing here? You know, like it's
thoughts on West Side Story, Steven Spielberg edition?
Ooh, me?
Yeah.
Ooh, West Side Story. Yeah, beautiful. I love the light in that. Like, light is such an important part of Spielberg, and like, I love that connection you're making. Like the light rays and lens flares and stuff. Yeah, no, I love that kind of stuff. And it's just getting those like, very specific shots, and being like, we're not just going to capture the master shot, close up, the reverse shot, reverse shot, and just do this like studio system thing that everyone sort of falls into.
It's exactly what you're saying. Like the opening of that film in particular, that big crane shot where you're like, I can't tell where the set ends and the visual effects begin, is the first part. It's brilliant. But it's like, again, you didn't have to do this. You didn't have to set this up and destroy this stuff. It's like doing the Universal tour and seeing the airplane from War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
It's just, they've just moved it, and it's just sitting there, dude. And you just go through a broken airplane. It's like they bought an airplane, they tore it up, They threw it on the ground. It's like you didn't have to do that much, but you did, and we appreciate him for it. I hate you for connecting us to West Side Story, Kay, because I hate that movie. But
it's okay.
Well done.
It's
Well
okay. You're wrong, and that's fine. It's listen, Jim. It's nice to be on a podcast with a fellow film fan. It's just it's really nice to just be with someone who appreciates the art.
Okay. We are definitely going to bring up Last Jedi at some point. Don't worry.
Happen. It can't.
Just for you.
Damn it! You already did. This fucking sucks.
You might get 2. You might get 3. You might get 4 Last Jedi connections this episode. It's a whole thing. Yeah, but what even?
It's all connected.
So I actually have a question for you. So we were talking about natural lighting in this film, and one of the things that stood out to me was when Gu is the main character. Is that right?
Yeah, Gu. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Is like the main character thing is all. Gu, the guy. Yeah. Our first guy.
Painter.
Yeah, our first character.
Red
exactly.
Pill
Yeah.
lives in your mum's basement. Doesn't want to work. Just
for sure.
Played a bunch of Civ 5 and reckons he can run a whole campaign on his own in real life.
Absolutely,
he does. And he does.
Yeah, and it's teaching you that you should.
And in fairness to him, yeah, like absolutely. Apparently, you can command armies if you've only played Civ 5.
Oh, I've been reading a lot about this, so yeah, I'll do it. And then it's just mastermind, beautiful. But there was a moment in the film that I thought was really interesting, and it's when he is going through the ghost house for the first time because he thinks there's someone in there, and he's running around with his little candle. But the candle is giving off so much light that it didn't feel natural in that sense. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, have they got like a spotlight pointed at him where the candle is that's like illuminating it even more? Like I thought it was a really interesting use of that. Like it's motivated lighting, but like I hadn't seen that in a film this old before.
Yeah, they are doing that. So they are shooting. At least it's either they're bouncing a mirror off of him off some light, or they are just getting there. Do you have a spotlight? And again, that's like pure like the stage of it all, the picking up of it all. Just using a spotlight to light the character. It's like yeah, sure, you can see the shadows, and it is too bright, but that's the look. That's what we're going for.
Exactly. Yeah. It's exactly that. It is giving I am sitting in the audience and there's a guy behind me right here shooting it, telling me where I need to be looking with his light.
Exactly.
Which is such a brilliant touch for getting that operatic feel of the film, right? It's so cool. And one thing we haven't talked about too much is the actual like edit of this film and how bits are pieced together. Jim, I'd love to kick off with you. Talk to me about some of the moments or bits that stand out to you.
I mean, okay, so like the editing is like crazy in this movie. It's so insane that like he's editing this with physical film and he's cutting it, and I'm like, I don't know how he's like, how are you deciding to do this? And then like the music is gonna sync up with this, and then you bring it to the music, and then you get it like. I don't know how it's so rhythmic, and I'm like, I don't know how you're doing this with the technology that's available to you. I don't understand how he's doing it.
It's insane.
But
you mentioned as well, like this film is edited by King Hu, isn't it? Like he's edited his own film. Or did he have a separate editor?
Yeah, King Hu's editing it.
There you go.
Yeah,
so
he's doing it all. He's the mastermind behind it all. But like specifically, I think I'll point to the way the fights are done, because I think we were sort of talking about how it's different to Crouching Tiger, where they're putting them on wires and they're literally standing on bamboo. In this one, it's like they're bunny hopping or they're jumping on trampolines, and then we're using the cut to infer that our character is jumping from tree to tree to tree. You're seeing that you've watched Dragon Inn, so you saw that at the end of that film as well, where we're implying that a character is flying over to this through a cut. So it's that sort of the magic of the cut and the use of the human imagination to fill those gaps, and just being like, trust the audience here. Trust the audience; they'll be able to figure out that like the character has leaps to this location, has done this feat. We're cutting, cut. But like the audience they understand what's happening. They understand what we're doing to make this magic happen. It's what we have to do, and it's what we're doing, and we're not going to shy away from it. We're not going to try and really make someone leap and fly. We're gonna use the power of cinema to actually make this, and we're gonna be like, they'll use their imagination, their childlike wonder to fill in those gaps. Yeah. And it's like, that's just relying on that, and with editing is what I love about specifically there.
And I think that with this, there's a lot of like fast-paced cuts that are getting you from, we're moving very quickly through this space. We're jumping from here to here to here to here to here to here to here. Which like contrasting to like Dragon Inn, where I think it's, as you said, at the end of the film is kind of where you only get that one big kind of jump and leap to a new location. But outside of that, a lot of the movement that you're getting, like that sort of last fight scene where you've got the almost, you know, the Darth Sidious dive from Revenge of the Sith, that it's treason then. They use that move in Dragon Inn, K, where the person jumps towards the camera and then it cuts to underneath. The dude's doing a spin over the camera and he's moving like he's closing 5 feet of distance.
Oh, wow.
He's just like, I want to get there. But he just jumps and dives and he does this little spin. And I think it's exactly what you're saying, that if you were trying to explain it to someone, like, hey, here's what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to do this, 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 and I think they'll be able to figure out. I can imagine the DP on set being like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what do you mean? Like, you can't even cut.
Yeah, where you're just like
Premiere Pro yet. You know, you can't like Q and W and like move things really quickly like that, bro. It doesn't work like that, okay? Like, we can't do it. And he's like, shut up, let me cook. And you let him cook. And
he's just,
it's like, it works. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, and you use the cuts to hide so much of like how the tricks are done as well, because like I don't know if you remember that part where it's Young and General Shi, they're fighting in the bamboo forest, and it's Young, and then she's jumping on the bamboo, and then they do that sort of like team up power move where like she jumps up and then she starts flying down. There's that shot of her just falling, and it's like how do like what are they doing to do that? And it's like, I'm totally buying it. Like the cut has just hidden away what the trick is, but to reveal it, it's they've got a stunt actor, they've got a bunch of bamboo leaves and sticks that they've just pulled from the forest, and they're just filming her jump into a lake, and they're just not catching the lake, and they're just holding the sticks up. So then it's just like, you just see the leaves, you see her falling, and then it's just like so when we cut from the previous shot of her up in the tree, you know, leaning over, we just go, she's jumping, she's in the forest right now, and she's falling and about to stab this guy, like free falling. But like, it's just the power of the cut is just like really, really like taken advantage of, especially in the end when we get really experimental.
Absolutely. And I think we owe a lot to like Asian cinema in general. We owe a lot of that kind of stuff, between that and French New Wave plus like the Russian, like Soviet kind of films. We really owe a lot of that, as you're saying, like trusting the cut to convey information, where it's this idea of like, I know when Naf was out here, we were filming something and we were trying to get like a reverse shot. Basically we were filming like this car scene, and we didn't want to obviously have our actors in the middle of the street. And so we were like, okay, what's the way to do it? And we found that there was like this one alleyway, but there was like just a little bit of a pop of greenery in like one of the windows area. And I realized, I'm like, okay, well, when we know, we can assume there's sort of a wall here. We see greenery through the window. We see all that stuff there. So if we flip it, it's in a completely different location, but for some reason you see green and your brain just unites the two, and you don't even question that it would, that like, why wouldn't this be in the same place? Because
exactly.
It's funny you use that story too, because I remember on the day, like actually like asking you, I was like, hey, what's happening here? Like, we're in an alley right now. Yeah, like that's not gonna, they're not gonna connect. And you were like, no, like because of this is how it's gonna work. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna let you cook. And then we got the cut, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's so cool. That's wild that my brain doesn't even think about we were in an alley when we shot that. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's such a crazy thing, like what the edit can do. But a lot of this stuff comes from these films, where you are using cuts to like mask again to make it look like they are doing these incredible jumps, where you're using this stuff there to just, it's amazing. It's again, it's that stuff that your brain only needs so much information to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
I mean, we just covered Psycho last week. Hitchcock knew that with the whole thing of like the shower scene. It's like you never need to see a knife piercing flesh. You never need to actually see that. All you see is you just hear it. And you just see these cuts that are just so flashing that you just but you feel it. And I feel like this film does a lot of that same idea.
Yeah. The characters aren't literally jumping from tree to tree, but the cuts are just being like they look like they are, and you're able to suspend your disbelief here and fill in those gaps. They are jumping from tree to tree.
Yeah, it's it's a bit like magic there, you know. It's that movie magic that you're kind of like, oh, that is nice.
Yeah.
And I feel like
it is like, you cheeky bastards.
Yeah, and I love that anecdote that you put there too, Jim, around like how they actually did her diving, because I remember thinking like, have they got her on wires and they're dropping her slowly and like over cranking? Like what's going on here? But that makes so much sense. They're just like, you just dive into that water because that's safe. We don't need to put a mat down or anything like that. I'm just gonna sit here with a camera. You just go. Like it's so good. I love that kind of stuff, and it ties into what we were saying before around that level of care. Like you didn't really have to add that shot in, but you did, and I feel like it's one of those ones where you're like, I got to make sure we get this shot before the end of the day, and they're like, come on, really? Like, I need that one. If we get nothing else today, but this is the one that's in my brain. It's like me sending you a skit, K, and being like, I need you to say it like this from this angle, because that's what's going to make my skit work.
It's true. It is this thing of like even for the skit that we filmed for this episode, like Naf was talking about those things, and it's that moment where you're looking at it going, oh, I don't quite see what, like, I think it's better this way, but then you see what the full vision is and you're like, got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense once I see like what the energy is that you're going for. But yeah, like going further with that, I guess like just kind of one of the things here, like it's one thing for a film to have, you know, great editing, great camera work, and you know, that's all well and good. There are plenty of films like that, but why the films like this endure, I personally believe it comes down to the theme. It comes down to, you know, meaning behind everything. And I'm curious, obviously there's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about, but Naf, do you have any thoughts on sort of the themes as you were experiencing this film, or both films that like you kind of checked out? Is there anything that really stuck out to you in that regard?
Yeah, well, we know like the film itself is about kind of people moving from essentially or like one stage of their life or one aspect of their life to another. It's that, as Jim put it, it's transcendence, right? And we're going to dive into depth on like that particular aspect of it. But when you think of that as like the core theme, all of these other little moments start to stand out. And one of my favorites is in the middle section of the film where we've got all of our bad guys hiding out in the main mansion, the haunted mansion. And Gu has the idea of, let's make them think it's actually ghosts. Let's be ghosts and let's go in and rip them apart. He puts together this wonderful little plan, and it works perfectly. It's executed without a flaw. But one of the things that I think brings together the kind of operatic, the stage play feel of the film is that moment where he wakes up and goes, all right, let's go have a look. And he goes through all these little things. He's walking along and he just kind of stops in the middle. He's like, ha 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 ha. And then he walks through and he looks at his thing and he's like, ha 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 ha. And it's like, it's so overplayed. And in the moment I was like, okay, come on, bro. Like, you're doing a bit too much. Like, I get it. And then the pin drops where he sees the first little bit of blood and he looks at haha and he looks down and it's like, oh, like this isn't a game. Like this wasn't me on my computer, like playing around and reading a book. Like there are bodies, there is death, there are like souls that are gone, and it's because of me. And you watch all of that happen like in his face. And then that's where you realize the entire point up to this film where you kind of get the, like, it's quite common, like it feels like a overacting back like from films from back this in this day and age, where you're like, these days I think people are more drawn to that kind of naturalistic feeling. That's where you go, the Florence Pughs, where you go, that's really great acting and she's not doing much, you know, like it's that draws you into it. But here you kind of have to like recognize that that's how it was at that time. But then here
It's
is where
theatre.
you
It's
realize
theatre acting
exactly,
as well.
yeah, it's theatre.
Yes.
But this is where you realize why it worked so well, because all of a sudden, all of these like, what? Like this is the thing that you wanted me to do. What do you mean? Comes full circle, and you see everything in his face, and it's heavy. Watching him come to that realization that what have I done, and even going up to the monks and being like, where does she go? And the monk just looking at him, being like, it's like he sees right through him, and he can feel it, and then he goes on his journey to try and find the girl. He's like, don't chase her. She said, don't chase her. And he's like, I'm gonna do it anyway. I need a female approval. But that
Which,
sequence in
like,
particular-
same, but
yeah, it's the film's mummy issues, isn't it? It's like, mum doesn't love me. I'm gonna chase the girl. She doesn't love me either.
That's what it's all about. That's what life's all about.
damn.
Yeah. King doesn't have a mum.
So anyway, how's your mom?
She's great. She's doing
She's
good.
great, fantastic, awesome. What's that like to have one? Like, you know,
Get out. I'm booting him.
all right, see you guys.
No. But
Like,
so yeah, that scene, that was one of my favorite moments in the film, and I think you do kind of see how it's obviously it was two films or two parts to one film, but you almost do have, I think it's almost like three individual stories a little bit, and you could have ended it, like in the essay that I read there, like in any standard film, you could have ended the film right there at that point as he kind of goes off and does his journey and be like, that's it. But like at that point, we've got like an hour of film left. Still, you're like, okay, we're gonna keep going. And I thought that it just it's a bit of an odyssey. This one, it's cool in that sense.
yeah.
But yeah, like that was one of my favorite scenes, and that I think kind of touches on that. He's going through this metamorphosis, this transcendence, and he's trying to get to that, find that enlightenment, and he thinks it's here in that I have purpose because I saved this girl. At what cost? I love.
Oh yeah.
What about you guys?
Well, it is the. Well, absolutely. Like, I mean, and well, actually, Jim, I'm curious to know your thoughts on that whole thing, especially that scene of like him coming out and doing the whole ha 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 ha, like kind of when, like, I am curious how you're, because I know I was deeply moved by that moment.
Yeah, I know. I remember being like taken aback by it. My like obviously revisiting. I've watched the film a few times now, so
How many times have you seen it? Do you know?
I think it's like 4 times. I think I watched it. I watched it once in a plane as well. I just chucked it on.
You gotta do it.
Just got to chuck it on. 3 hours. It'll bite off a bit of that flight. But no,
Absolutely.
No, I remember that hitting me pretty hard and having that like that oh shit moment, like about like him sort of reacting and responding to like the actual reality of the death. Like now I've sort of like have this sort of like all encompassing read on the film that I think maybe like I don't obviously I've seen the film so many times. I don't have the same response to that scene. I know what's coming. I know what's happening here. So like my general sort of response to it now is him being sort of the director of this stage show, him putting on his own sort of operatic lights, smoke and mirror kind of show for the like to take on these guys, and sort of seeing the I don't know, like his vision sort of work, his vision come together in a way. And like I kind of relate that a little bit to King Hu, seeing his vision come alive, all that sort of stuff, putting himself in that place. And I know, and I haven't read enough into it, but I know that King Hu went out of his way making these films to be like anti-James Bond movies. I don't know what exactly he's saying there, but I think there is something in the death and casualties and the violence and the sort of the and the monks come in and bring this message forward as well. This like needless violence, this death, and maybe Gu feels that too, and maybe King Hu feels this as well. Is like we're putting on this show, we're putting on this stage show, but are we enjoying the violence too much? Are we enjoying the death too much? There's something there as well, especially in that thing that King Hu has always talked about being like the anti-James Bond, especially with Dragon, and he mentions it quite a lot. But I think it is in this film as well. It's in his whole career. He's like anti this type of character. I'm going to go and take these classical wuxia tropey characters and then and show you guys these heroes. These guys are the warriors. These lone warriors that come in and they walk in. They're sort of usually not involved in the situation, and they get involved and they make a difference. That's in Dragon Inn quite a bit, but a little bit in this one because Gu gets involved in this thing that he's just this like layman character. He's just this guy, and he just gets a little too curious, and he starts noticing stuff, and he starts looking around, and then he's like, I'm going to get involved in this. And it's like, should he have got involved? Should he not? It's not too sure, but it's a part of his journey.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it does talk to like what you experience in other films a lot as well, because you do have, like we said, all of this needless violence, these, killing this, killing that, blah, blah. Like, what kind of toll does it take on that person? And you get films that kind of touch on both sides of that. Like, I know that when we think about like what The Last Jedi did with Luke and going, hey, you have a New Hope, and you have murder and explosions and blah, blah. And then we don't really talk about that again. By the time we come back around Last Jedi and we've got Luke, we've got this character who's not involved. And maybe he doesn't want to be involved because like he's tired of the weight that has on him. And in the end, we get that sort of completion of that arc by him getting involved again and realizing that I can do a lot more good also without having to wipe out tens of thousands of people. Like I can be something bigger. I can be the monolith. I think that's really cool. Fuck you, K.
And he meets that movie ends with like Luke reaching a form of enlightenment at a sunset as well. There you go.
Yes.
Silhouetted by the sunset.
So
wow,
good.
look at that.
I'm putting in my 2 weeks.
So, Jim, position has just opened up.
So,
Yes,
congrats.
That-
My position would be replaced in an instant.
I've got a
but
list of people.
nonetheless,
I'm just waiting for you to give up.
hey, I understand. Same.
Nope,
But
Hey, I was curious from your perspective in particular, like as this film wrapped up and it kind of ended, like what's your takeaway at that point? That last little sequence there, what's your read there?
it's tough because I feel like the film really leaned fully into the monk stuff because the monks to me stole the show. I mean, the monks to me were like the coolest
sick.
part. The minute they come in, I always love kind of these almost spiritually neutral characters where it's like, oh, I'm not going to allow you to kill our heroes. And then we kind of go, oh, sweet, they're going to get the one up on. And then they're like, well, I'm not going to allow you to kill the bad guys either.
Yeah.
I love that in that flashback
Not here.
sequence where they're like looking for each other and they're like, no, you just go hide. You go, I'll take care of you over there. And he's just sitting there and he's doing his little like seven fishes
He's
kind
so
of
sexy
story. He's just sitting there and telling everything and he's doing his little preach. And the guy comes up and he's like, oh, have you seen him? And the second that he interacts, he wakes up and he's a bit like, boom. And the guy's like, oh, hold on, I misjudged what was going to happen here.
Yeah, I desperately misread the power dynamics of this situation.
It's something that's really cool in Dragon Inn as well. Like the introduction to a bunch of characters is like that. There's these like, oh, this quiet little guy that comes in. Having watched Touch of Zen, like Gu is in the Dragon Inn as well, and he's
the warrior. He's the warrior hero.
The big, he's good. He's very, very good.
The lone warrior, yeah.
Yeah, watching them try to like fuck with him and he's like catching the arrow in the wine glass and I was like, what? Very similar.
It's so cool.
But the monks were something that you had as like a standout from your experience watching this case. So I want more on the monks from you. Like,
absolutely. Listen. Listen, these monks were sexy ass motherfuckers. Like that guy there, like he can carry all my problems on his shoulders. And to me, I'm like, sir, you can enlighten me any day you wish. And but that is like,
I don't think he does that anymore. It's part of the enlightenment, desires of the flesh,
Hey, I'm asexual. That works for me. And that's like, and so, hey, listen, I can make it work either way. And so, but my thing with the monks that I thought added a very interesting element to the movie, mainly when it came down to that morality stuff. Like, as we were talking about earlier, it is very much a thing of you've seen these guys, and what I love about them is because to me they felt like the most well-rounded characters out of all of them, was like such an interesting thing, because I'm like, why did you choose to give that to the monks? Like, what? Like, that clearly is a choice. You're telling them to act in a much more subdued way than everybody else. Like, it kind of felt like there was something that was trying to be conveyed there. And I'm like, I really like that scene when they come in and they're cleaning up the bodies. These guys are very aware of the cost of this death and this violence, and I think that that's a very interesting, I don't know, interesting thing. My camera died, but I'm gonna just continue going. I'm gonna continue with that. But Naf, I'm interested if you had a similar feeling.
I think what I thought was really cool is that as soon as, because we get introduced to a new villain in the tail end of the film, we're in the last act, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, here's this guy, he's like the big bad now. And I love that to that point we've got Gu searching for her, and she's like watching him from the distance and leaves the baby, and look, your line's going to continue, but like our story is done. It's a bit of that. I get another drop of like realization for him that's like, oh, the way that I thought my life was going to go all of a sudden is not how it's going to go. Like when he comes back earlier in the film and he goes, we're basically man and wife, I need to protect you. She's like, bro, all of that is over. Yeah, that was just like, that was a blip in time for us. That's all. That time is past.
That was a side quest.
Yeah. I just needed some like XP points here, you know. I needed to just upskill a little bit, earn a couple of new tricks, and then move on.
I just needed to get a couple of perks.
Yeah, exactly. But to that end, you introduce this new villain, and as it's this I was thinking Gandalf the White sequence where they're kind of chasing through the forest, and then you turn around and it's this being silhouetted by the sun, and it's very much like Pippin and Merrin being like, we're going to the White Wizard, and Gandalf the White shows up, and you're like, oh, it's Gandalf. It was very similar to that, and you go, oh, this is. I didn't realize. I thought at this point, this is someone who just knows what's up, but it's at this point that you're visually telling me that this person has reached enlightenment. They're on a level beyond what we're ready to experience right now.
Yes.
And I love that. To add to the wildness that is the finale, I know you probably haven't, Kate, but Jim, have you seen Berserk, the anime?
No, but I saw your review and I was like, what does he mean by this? And then I saw the anime. Yeah, go on.
Like there's a thing in Berserk which is like, there's almost a changing of the realm. Like people enter into a different like space. I thought that that's kind of where we were heading with this. Then all of a sudden, you've got these different colors, you've got these negatives, you've got everything happening. But I do like that just before then, you've got the punch to like is it the pineal gland, like here, the third eye? And all of a sudden, he's like blind, and everything he's seeing.
He can see something else.
And he looks over, and you've got like the kind of silhouette of, is there actually like a village or a monastery over there, or is it just the clouds? What does it mean? Like, I can see it now. I think I can. There's so much information to take in. It's like you've just been dosed with 22 grams of mushrooms, and they've gone, all right, it's going to go for 5 minutes. Enjoy.
Oh, exactly.
But I love him looking back at the main monk who's sitting there. He's kind of holding the wound. And as he moves, you've got the golden blood, and it's like, okay, well, is he like a god and he's bleeding gold? Is this person, just because he's taken the knock, he's hallucinating this? Like, is it? I think that in that point, for me, my takeaway was it's him seeing and accepting that this guy is well beyond him. It's like, is the blood gold or not? Probably not. It's probably just normal blood, and he's going to go and die like a human. But this guy's looking at him and going, oh yeah, no, like you were cooking and I had no idea. And then you have the skeleton kind of falling, and him falling off the thing. It's a bit like, I realize the error of my ways, and I'm never going to be what this guy was, because I was not familiar with your game, sir. It's kind of where I took that.
That is the energy.
Yeah. And then he's gone. And it's like, okay, you're never going to hit that. But this is one that is on my rewatch list because I want to get back to it. And experience it from I know
Mhm.
what this looks like. So let me just try and be here with this moment a little bit and see if I can become enlightened.
Like read it. Yeah, right,
Yeah. But yeah, that mess of words is sort of my interpretation so far. It requires refinement and understanding and time, but
Right.
initially I was like, this is what I'm kind of seeing here. I'm seeing a person who wants
Mhm.
that, and he thinks he gets that by killing him so that he can replace him. I'm no longer the second best because you're gone. And then it's like, oh, but now I'll never
Right,
be what you
right.
were
Yeah.
because you were the only person who could teach me, and I just killed you. So now my life has no meaning. I'm never going to
Mhm.
reach enlightenment. Holy shit!
And also, he succumbs to violence as well, and that's not what they're about. It's like
Yeah.
that's like this all this. Yeah, yeah.
The monks
exactly.
are there the whole time, kind of constantly going, "It's not about that. I don't want to fight you. We don't have to do this." And it is a bit of that, like, it's like that reminder of what, like, we've evolved from animals, right? And when you resort to those baser animalistic instincts, like, I'm going to solve this with violence, it's like that is the complete opposite of enlightenment. It's that's the difference. It's you're aware of and manage your emotions. You can become enlightened.
Yeah.
And that's generally, to my understanding so far, and please forgive my ignorance, like a lot of that understanding and a lot of those teachings are understand and manage those emotions and connect with that and be present, and that allows you to open your mind up to whatever else the universe has for you. Oh, I'm boring you, Kay.
There you go.
This
I'm
inopportune
worked
time.
at like
freaking yawning,
6
bro. What
a.m.
the hell, bro?
today,
Inopportune
bud.
time to yawn. I'm sitting here pouring my soul out,
Inopportune.
and you're.
I thought it was good. I thought it was
Yeah.
good. It was you talked well.
He was
You did
gasping. He was
the
like,
thing.
"Oh,
That's
Exactly.
what it was. Yeah.
Holy
You took all
He
my
was just
breath
muted.
away.
Yeah.
You took everything there. You just like it must have lagged because I went, oh, great point. And you know, but you jumped on me so quick that it was like, damn.
Well,
What the
Yeah.
hell, Naf?
this is what I do.
So
but I know,
Jim, and so
I was gonna say, like,
Mhm.
this genre in particular has like tropes and themes that people were expecting going into it, and as we said, when the film came out, it flopped, right? Like, people didn't quite
Yeah.
see what was happening until years later when they got to see it all in one go and were like, oh. But as we said, like,
Yeah.
one of the core like themes of the film is that transcendence, that you know, complete rewire of your existence. And the
Mhm.
film transcends in multiple different ways. And I know this is your what's your word? Like your PhD thesis on this film is on transcendence.
Jesus.
And I want to
Yeah.
hear in depth that. I want, like, the house level. Give me my.
PhD all over this podcast right now.
Oh no.
Do it.
Oh,
It's
no.
your time. Here's the microphone. It's a can of Pepsi.
Oh, thank you. That's dude. Oh, I love Pepsi. Oh, Pepsi's good. So okay, my so like my whole read on the film, and this is just like a read because like when I look at that ending, I'm almost like that ending is enigmatic. Like it's so like I like almost not understandable as to like how I should be responding to it, and that's sort of how I've accepted it. And like I think that's the point. I'm not meant to sort of fully understand what's happening here because it is transcendence. It's beyond comprehension. And so I was like, okay, well, how are they illustrating that and how are they getting that across? I was like, well, okay, well, it's through the language of the film. So then I started to look back at like what the film was doing from each of those three steps of the journey. We've got three sort of distinct parts of the film. So you start the film with Gu. And Gu is a painter and he's a literature guy. And he's just a layman guy. He's a guy that's in this town. He's a normal dude. And so when we look to where wuxia, the genre itself starts in literature and Chinese painting. That's where that begins. You begin the story of wuxia and telling those stories of these heroes that do these impossible things, that can do these, that have these insane abilities. We start within that space, that visual storytelling, that literature, that writing, that those paintings. And then Gu has an experience with this guy who lives outside of his realm of where he resides. He just is just a normal guy. He's just a scholar. And he meets this guy, this lone wanderer that comes in, and he is from he's from a different world. He's from the martial world of some kind. And he has this interaction. This is very, very specific shot. I don't know if there's tension behind it. I've gone back and forth on this, but you get this close up of his eyes where it's like this light shining in what's his name? The first bad guy, basically. I forgot his name.
Yeah.
Oh Young. I think it's Oh Young.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah. So you get this shot of him with his eyes are sort of sparkling. There's a light in them. And then we get a shot of Gu again, and it feels like time has sort of jumped a little bit. He's finished his drawing. He's nearly finished his painting. He's drawn the whole sketch, and it has this weird moment that happens there that I'm just like, I always identify, and I'm like, something happens there to Gu. It's almost like something transfers to him. I'm like, what's happening here? And from that moment on, Gu has gone from this guy who's just living his day-to-day life. He's kind of like just stay at home, with in his mum's basement kind of thing. But now he's looking around and he's noticing things. He's noticing this guy is sneaking around. He's noticing that there's these weird guys in town that he never sort of noticed before. He's becoming aware of his surroundings a lot more. It's like he's almost like opened up to the Matrix in a way. And that's sort of like my first read on that. And that's sort of when we jump to that second stage of the film where he meets Young, the girl next door, and he starts to get introduced to this entire new world. And he starts to witness it, which is the world of these heroes, these martial heroes. And then we jump into the second stage of the genre, which is the stage, the peaking opera, the trampolines, the jumping around, the staging, all that stuff. And you get that in the martial arts sequences and the fights. You get him witnessing these heroes do these impossible feats, jumping and leaping and doing all this combat. And there's this shot of him where he's watching Young fight, Young. In the distance, they're fighting like on this little like overpass, this little archway, and he's just trying to get to them. He's trying to get closer and closer and closer. He's in the back row, but he's trying to see closer. I want to get in closer to see this. And he's constantly getting there. And as we move further into that second section, he's getting closer and witnessing these things to an even like he's right in the front rows, basically. He's seeing this stuff and he's like, this is insane that this is happening in front of my eyes. And then he becomes effectively the stage director of his own performance, his own like peaking opera stage show when he did that, the horror house sequence happens.
Yeah.
Then his story sort of ends here in a sense, but not really. Obviously, he goes on that journey, and then we enter the third stage of the film with the monks. And Gu's perspective of that and how he's changed from seeing that death and destruction, he sort of has this enlightening moment where he's like, I don't like seeing this death. The way I've responded to it is, I don't like it, which is that path to the monks, this enlightenment path. We head to that third stage where we're trying to articulate and see and express this next level of enlightenment. We've gone from the ordinary world to the martial world to beyond. And the way you're expressing that, the way you're showing what these monks can do and that other world is through cinematic language. And we're doing editing, we're doing inverting stuff, we're doing all these amazing stuff that you could never do on the stage, you could never do in literature and writing. We've got this new, fully formed version of what wuxia as a piece of storytelling can be when we transcend from the page to the stage to the screen. And that's sort of my overall reading of it. It's this evolution of the genre and transcendence of genre through the visual mediums as we progress and as we transcend sort of in what we can do and how we can visually represent wuxia as a genre. That's sort of my overall reading of it. And we get to that point where it's like, we can't comprehend it, we can't understand it, but we're trying to through the edit, through the visuals, through capturing it through camera, through light, mirrors, all this stuff. And we're getting closer to that point, and we get to that at the end of the film there. So it's that journey of the genre is the way I see the journey of the film and Gu's perception of that starting off as this literature writer, going to become the stage director, and they're witnessing and seeing and unable to comprehend the future of how these stories could be perceived and told, which is cinematically. Anyway, that's my overall take on the film.
I see. It
there you go.
I love
reminds
it.
me a lot of hearing like Artur talk in our 2001: A Space Odyssey episode, and connecting things like there was one thing that he'd mentioned around the big black monolith, and he's like, there's this connection that I make between like, we're all like the monolith is so important, it's like the biggest thing there, and hey, guess what you carry in your pocket all the time, the big black like monolith, the kind of black mirror of it all. And I was like, it is one of those things that you don't kind of realize in the moment. I think it's probably similar to like what happened with what was the movie last year, the Miyazaki film that came out.
Miyazaki,
Boy and the Heron.
Boy and the Heron, where it's like at a glance, it's just a story about a kid, but then when you look at the guy's life experience up to this point, and it's them talking about how it's him looking to his mentor for how can I keep this alive, and I want to keep this person alive through the story, and there's all these other layers to it that exist within these people's art. And it's this this feeling that we've kind of that like I tend to use a lot where I'm mentioning people, I'm like, it is that deep. It's like if you see it, it's that deep. Any person that comes to you and tells you like, no, that's bullshit, it's not that deep, it's like, fuck you. It's art, it's for interpretation, it's anything. You could go and sit down with King Hu and go, hey, is this what it means? You'd be like, nah. You'd be like, fuck you, bro. Like it's just, it is that deep.
For sure.
You said a line there which was like, if you say it's that deep, it is that deep. Is that what you said there?
Yeah,
that's yeah. There's a line early in the film that Jen, my partner, pointed out to me because it doesn't translate quite well on the subtitles, but I think they say something like, if you believe there's ghosts, there will be ghosts, sort of thing. And like, it's like there's like if you believe there's a meaning, there is meaning, and then you go towards that ending part where it's like they're telling these stories of like there's ghosts here, and then they begin to believe it, and it's like we're placing meaning on this thing. We're telling you there's a meaning, and people are able to sort of start to see the meaning there, and see something there that maybe wasn't there before, but because I'm saying there's a meaning here, there's something here, I'm able to you're able to sort of put that to people. I don't know. I that's something that I like. When you said that, it made me think of that. When there's this, when if you believe ghosts are there, and the ghost being a meaning, something that you can't see, but if I believe it's there, it is there.
Yeah, it's like things happen and you assign meaning to that based on your belief. It's like that's human nature. It's like I don't know the word for it something here, but there is a word for like how we see like human faces in space and stuff like it's like it's just clouds and dust and nothing, but you look at it and you see the human face. There's like a word for it, but I don't know what it is. But we tend to assign and ascribe meaning to things that maybe there isn't, because like the human brain is wired for storytelling. Like that's when it's lit up the most, when it's listening to and when it's telling stories. And it's beautiful. It's art.
Yeah. Like that's the best part about art to me, is the idea that there can be meaning like inherently within things, and meaning that doesn't mean the same thing. Again, how many songs do you interpret one way and that others would be like, oh, that's not how I read those lyrics at all? And it's like, to me, I think that there is beauty behind, and I think that even creators, I am curious to see what was your intent. Like, what did this mean? Not that it invalidates my intent, but I take it as just a similar opinion to Naf's, to anybody. It's like, I have my own interpretation of when I created this, but I understand from a creator standpoint, you're much more interested in what other people interpret. And so you're like, of course, I know why I made these choices. I'm not as interested in that. What I am interested in is what other people have. And I think that there's just a beauty to these kind of films with that. And I agree, Jim, with everything you're saying about transcendence and the nature of transcendent art and the idea of how it does it. And I think that this film transcended the genre itself and continue to inspire future artists to come. Yeah. And I think that that's just what we hope for when we're a part of this incredible tapestry of art.
Yeah, and I'm in the essay that I was referring to earlier as well. Like he mentions a conversation with King Hu where they had kind of tried to get a bit more explanation. It was very much a no, like this is open to interpretation. I want the interpretation. I want these people to just think about it and get your own meaning of what it means.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's beautiful, and it's very telling. Like, I'm just looking at one of the screenshots here of one of the shots late in the film where the sun is silhouetting and he's kind of pointing off to the distance here, and it's so like what's the word, like emblematic of what the film kind of is representing in that sense. It is this
keep going.
It's it.
Keep going beyond.
You don't understand it right now.
Keep looking.
But it's there.
But keep looking.
That's it. Yeah, it's there. It's waiting for you. It's
and it's Gu, the character who begins the film, who begins to look, and he begins to notice what's around him, and it's just that small step of him looking around and being like, there's something more going on here. Yeah. And he gets to that point at the end where he may be at that point where he's like, he can't go further right now, but he's looking for something, and he's following that point.
And
basically.
While you were going through your thesis before as well, we got a message in chat from a Doug Holler that said, "I love this guest so much." So that's
and we do too.
I love Doug too. Yeah. I love Doug. He's a cutie patootie.
There you go, Doug. You're a cutie patootie. Yeah, but I guess before we move into cinema a la carte, between the three of us, any other points we want to touch on, and yeah, sort of close up our final thoughts on this film? What have you got, Jim?
Oh god. I mean, I had a list of sort of like notes and stuff here, but in general, I love wuxia. I think it's one of the most awesome like genres you can ever dive into. It's so like raw. You have that just like that response to it, like just seeing these incredible things, seeing this place you're not familiar with possibly as well, and just identifying these tropes and all that. It's just so exciting, and I would really push, especially Kay, like you've jumped in the deep end with this. Like this is like you mentioned you've never done this before, and I was like, this is not a great place to start because it is, but it's like usually wouldn't start with this film, but like it's awesome that you jumped in the deep end.
I understand, because I'm about to do something similar to Naf later on this year with Naf has not seen a lot of the old westerns, and one of my favorite films is Unforgiven. But yes, exactly. But what I find is similar to what you're talking about with this one is I think Unforgiven is what this film was for wuxia films. Unforgiven did for westerns, and it's that thing of like, it's an odd comparison, but it's like it's a thing of like you can start here, but you may not get the significance of what this was and what this did.
Yeah, and like, this is so early in wuxia as well. Yeah, like this is like.
No, you go.
Oh, you keep going. Oh, I was gonna say this is just so early in wuxia as well. Like it's so crazy. Like for cinematically, it's so crazy that he was like so ahead of his time. Like he was ahead of the game with this one. Anyway, you go.
I was just gonna ask. I granted that like you probably wouldn't put this as someone to start with. We are gonna do like cinema a la carte to get some combinations of bits and pieces here. But I'm curious if where would you send someone to start if they want to go into their wuxia like journey?
Oh, okay. I mean, the easiest recommendation is just do Crouching Tiger, because it's just so accessible, and it's very westernized. So it's very, 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 very like you can kind of like process what's going on and what it's doing, but it also has some of those things that like something like a Touch of Zen does, where it's like in the middle of the film it's like you're doing a flashback scene and then you're sort of changing your perspective character a little bit. So it's like it's got those things that come along with wuxia. But I do have a list. I'm trying to think of like other ones. I mean, Dragon Inn's a great old one, and that's very, 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 very simple and straightforward.
I remember, I think
you've seen it, obviously, you know
on this a little while ago.
I did.
Yeah.
I did a 10 like wuxia films to start with, and if Doug's still watching, he will test me to this. Hero is like the big time, like that came out after Crouching Tiger. That's by Zhang Yimou. That's a mainland China film, and that film plays with color and plays with the fantastical nature. It does like a Rashomon kind of thing where it's like multiple different stories and telling, you know, what these characters have done and what they've gone through and all this stuff. It's got some of the greatest actors from that genre. It's got Tony Leung, it's got Maggie Cheung, it's got Zhang Ji, it's got who's the lead, Jet Li. So it's like it's a big one. And I think if you've seen Crouching Tiger, watch Hero, like watch Hero next, and then you can start to sort of just like keep going. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hero is one of the best. Hero is one of the best.
Yeah. And Kay, any final thoughts on the film?
I mean, other than I'm just really excited to get more into this genre, and I'm very grateful for you bringing it over, Jim, like getting a chance to be exposed to this. I'm excited to continue the journey down the way. As you always do.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I loved it. Like we said, I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd, and literally that's coming from, as we said, like I'm sure this is very like, it's like wuxia meets like Nafcore, that kind of existential what am I kind of what's it called story that I tend to be very drawn to. But this one, because it's got such like kind of complexities in the final act, that I'm like, I need more time to process this. And I'm pretty confident that, next watch through, this is going to land really solid. And especially after this conversation too, this was very enlightening, if you will.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Well,
nice.
we always love to wrap up with a little game of cinema a la carte. And as a reminder, this is where we really get to show you the best way to experience this film, and that's through the metaphor of food. Now, we've each prepared a tasting menu of our own on this, with this week's film as the main course, along with an entree to start or an appetizer, a wine to pair, and a dessert to complete your journey. And you get to decide which set menu you love the most. So be sure to let us know in the comments or over on socials, all that kind of stuff. Now, Kay, I would love to start with you, my friend. What is the name of your little tasting menu? How much does it cost?
What's the name? Oh,
give me the pieces.
Well, good news, Jim, is you got a little bit of time to improv, but I will say that I have named my set menu, and my menu doesn't have a price. This is priceless.
Okay.
This is a gift from me to you. And mine is called, Is This Real Life or Is This Just Fantasy? And given the nature of this film being very much kind of introducing you to this genre where fantasy is deeply involved and that's kind of part of it, I wanted to lean into films in a meal that would involve films that are fantasy, but also it's kind of, they tread the line a little bit. And so for an appetizer, I decided to go with A24's Green Knight. Start off with it as it sets the tone for our dinner. A little audacious and a little symbolic forward, but shows you how engaging fantasy can be despite the outdated nature of the text.
Right.
And ultimately, you find yourself asking yourself, is this a metaphor or was it real? And the answer is yes. The main course, of course, is a Touch of Zen, which is opening you up to all these different types of wuxia films and very much sort of things there. But to a different side of cinema, I wanted to pair this with a wine, and this wine, it's a little earthy, a little bit of iron in there, like a little bit of it's a little bit bloody, and it's Iron Man too. Everyone,
oh my god,
Shang-Chi. But no, the wine that I have decided to pair with is A Throne of Blood. Because going with that Akira Kurosawa, go with this. It's the guilty pleasure drink because the film. Listen, this is a guilty pleasure drink that makes you truly think of any time you've betrayed a friend. You wonder if what you see is truly there, or is it all still a part of a figment of your imagination and the deep-seated guilt based on Shakespeare's Hamlet. It is also another adaptation film. I felt that this wine would be a perfect pairing to this, just going with the whole nature of fantasy. And finally, we are going to end with a dessert of a wonderful, little bit of more of a Latin vibe. We're actually going to get a little bit of, it's an earthy dish, but it has a bit of spice to it, a little bit of an interesting thing. And this one that balances both sides of thrill and beauty as we look into the worlds of monsters and what it takes to survive them. I'm going to recommend a dessert as Pan's Labyrinth. As a wonderful closer to this meal of you're currently in a thing of, was she trying to process all of this trauma through the mentality of fantasy, or was this actually happening? And I think that that's kind of what this is. So, that is my menu. Just to quickly go over it real quick. The appetizer is the Green Knight, followed up with a main course of a Touch of Zen, paired with a Throne of Blood, and with a dessert of Pan's Labyrinth.
Beautiful, stunning. I would pay good money
Fucking
for
beat that, gents! Fucking, this is my game!
Oh my gosh.
This is my world, and y'all are just living in it.
I think our guest should follow that, and I will sit here quietly. Jim, the floor is yours.
Jesus. Oh. When you pulled out Throne of Blood, I was like, "Oh shit, this is good. This is good." Oh my god, that's good. But I don't think it's Hamlet. I think it's Lady Macbeth. So
I'm sorry. That's what I meant. Did I say Hamlet?
Your entire list.
Do I trust a guy?
It doesn't matter anymore.
Do I trust a guy that doesn't know what he's talking about? No, I don't.
Shit.
Fake fan.
I gotta burn all my Shakespeare shit now.
Oh no. Oh, what have you done?
Goddamn. But go ahead, Jim.
Right. I don't have the poetic spiel, but look, this I've called this one La Transcendence. That's my bad pronunciation. Okay. One of the films we've already mentioned as well as like kind of a comparison, but I'll sort of run through them. So we start off a bit light, very, very, very simple. It's a little film came out recently. It's called After Yang. Don't know if you guys have heard of this one.
It actually was on my list.
So the little film. It's a sci-fi film about a family that has an android, and then the android malfunctions, and it's sort of about coping with that through grief, but also sort of reliving memories and how we perceive memories. And it plays with the edit in a way that I think is really interesting, that sort of transcends the idea of how do we perceive what we remember in life. And usually it's replaying and looping them in our head, and that's how they sort of play it out in the film, is like you get a moment and then it will just loop back a little bit, and then they'll say a line of dialogue just a slight bit differently. It's really interesting. There's some stuff that is very light though. It's very, very short and it's very simple. Then we go into a Touch of Zen. Now we've gone hit the big boy. Oh my god, what a fucking meal! Holy god, googly, really, really big time. I love me a Touch of Zen. Yum 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 yum. And then we go into the wine. I'm thinking 2001: Space Odyssey. I think that direct comparison between the two, and it is that sort of like that fine wine dining kind of film as well. Listening to that old sort of like orchestral music, love it. But they have that similar structure. They have that similar, journey towards a form of transcendence. Instead of it being a monk versus the eunuchs, it's astronauts versus AI. And there you go. So you got that going on for you. And then lastly, dessert. If you want dessert, you want sweet treat, something yummy and something to get you sink your teeth into. I've gone just The Matrix, baby. Oh my god. And that's all about transcending beyond the world you understand and before the world you perceive in front of your eyes. It's all about that, and it goes to that. And Keanu Reeves just like shoots guns and he kicks the shit out of the guys. It's fucking sick. So
yeah, that's a beautiful.
What more can you want for dessert, baby?
What more could you want?
That's beautiful. That's a wonderful little set menu. It's both of you guys. It's really cute what you put together. You've tried really hard. I appreciate the effort that you've brought in with me today. My tasting menu is
big talk.
It's called I Can't Unsee It, and that's okay.
Okay.
Our entree, our appetizer. We're going to kick off with a little bit of everything, everywhere, all at once. It's similar to, like the Matrix kind of. You peel back the page and you get your eye opened and you transcend, and there's shit you can't unsee. And I think that the point in which that film ends is this question of like, holy shit, how are we ever going to come back from this and live a normal life? We choose to, you know, it's the, you made the decision, you stick to the decision. It's all about finding purpose in your monotonous life. I am just doing laundry and taxes, and that sucks and I hate it, but maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay doing laundry and taxes. You know, it's this beautiful film about finding purpose, and it sets the tone for our watch party wonderfully. We get to our main, A Touch of Zen, as we've said for the last hour and a bit, like it covers everything you need. And for pairing with this film, I've gone a little bit of a different route. I've gone a video game here. I've gone with Ghost of Tsushima. I think that in terms of, again, I can't see it and unsee it, and that's okay. It's somebody seeing behind the lens of what they could become, and then they can't let go. You're on that path. You no longer have the original path available to you. You have to take this way. And obviously it ties in also to like, he's the ghost, he's the demon, these people don't know what's going on, and he's going in and sneaking in and causing chaos and tearing everyone to shreds, and it's nice. I was tossing up between that and the Northman for the same sort of reasons, but I thought video game, I like that touch a little bit.
I did want to play Ghosts of Tsushima like after I watched this, so I respect it. Yeah.
For dessert, we're going with a beautiful animated film. It's a stop motion animated film. It's one of my favorites by the Leica Studios who did Coraline. This is Kubo and the Two Strings. This one came out really under the radar release. I'm not sure if I know Kay hasn't seen it. Jim, have you seen this one?
I have seen it. Yeah. Well, a long time ago.
It is a lot of that as well. It's we get a peel behind the curtain, and I can't unsee it. And now I have to commit to this decision, and I have to go along with this story that exists. And again, there's a lot of finding purpose in my simple little existence, and maybe there's something a little bit bigger for me. Perhaps, maybe there isn't. Either way, we've got everything that we need, and we're going to be happy along the way. And there are some other themes in that film in particular that tie into this too, but I've kept that aside because I do want to make Kay watch that movie at some point too. So yeah, so those are mine. So wrapping back up again, we've got our entree appetizer with Everything Ever All at Once. We're pairing the film, the main film Touch of Zen, with Ghost of Tsushima. Sorry. I don't know why I can't say it properly. And then
you speak Taiwanese, man.
Fucking hell. I'm done. And then also that's Japanese, you racist.
You're the one that speaks Taiwanese, man. I don't know what your issue is here.
Please forgive my ignorance. But yeah, and then we're ending on dessert with Kubo and the Two Strings, and I think it's a great way to wrap it out because it's sweet, you know, it lingers. It's wonderful. I showed it to one of my friends a couple of years ago, and I was like, hey, I'm going to show you one of, if not like my favorite animated film. Watched it. He was like, it's not going to beat my favorite animated film, and it became his favorite. And I was like, score. And then he went and showed it to his kids, and his kids had nightmares, and that I can't unsee that. So that's my fault.
That is your fault.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I think you just lost by having that, just the whole little toe to the anecdote there. So if y'all want to vote for mine, because you know it's the best, feel free to do so in the comments below. Feel free to just let us know which of these. Did you try any of these meals? Did you actually go and sit down and do it? I bet you did, you little slut. Now, here's the thing. Like, I think that you should.
Damn, Daddy.
Holy
listen. Damn.
I wouldn't call you a slut.
No, I would be kind and gentle, unless you're into that sort of thing. In which case, I
assumed if they listened to this podcast that they kind of were into stuff like that. So
okay, cool.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Remember what happens when you assume, Kay? Yeah. You make an ass.
We making an ass out of you and me.
Come on, buddy.
Yeah, you're right. Anyway, and so I apologize. I don't know your sexual proclivity. I apologize for making assumptions. You're a lovely person, and thank you for listening to our podcast. And I really do hope that you do enjoy our menu. As I said, it is priceless. Man, if you would like to make a donation, we would appreciate it. I cannot guarantee that it will go to improving the podcast, but it will go to improving my wallet. So, nonetheless, we are here. So, Jim, why don't you tell the fabulous people where they can find you, what they can expect from your content, and all of that jazz?
Okay. I'm not gonna have the energy that you have.
That's
Nalbus
fine.
everywhere. Nalbus everywhere. Easy to find. NALBIS. I am desiring to do video essays. I'm working on one for the new 21 Pilots album, which is super fun, but it's very stressful.
If you need voice actors for
that,
that, where
but hey.
we've got experience.
You've got
I'm just
experience
saying.
doing
Experience.
voice acting for 21 Pilots video essays? That's crazy. What a coincidence. That's wild. That's weird. That's interesting. What the hell? Anyway,
If I had a nickel.
For every time that I talk to you at 21 Pilots video essays.
It's not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. But like,
okay.
Yeah.
So is that it? Is
now
that
it's everywhere.
It happens like that, you know. Sometimes we're everywhere.
Yeah. You guys can find.
Now it's everywhere. Yeah, and I'm cool.
You are.
He is cool. He's really great taste in movies as well.
Thank you.
And obviously, as we know. But yeah, you can find links to Nalbus's content in the description below as well. I believe he's tagged on the post too, so you can just click his little name there and go on there, give him a follow. And we would love to have you back again. Obviously, anytime.
Oh, absolutely.
You're gonna become a season recurring regular. It's gonna be great. Kay, where can people find you, my guy?
Absolutely. Well, people can find me at Movie Man Opinions anywhere that you have social media, unless you're going on X, and then I will just be simply Movie Man Opinion, because my one opinion is that Elon Musk should not own X. And that's but nonetheless, that is the case. But Naf, where can people find you?
Maybe you can find me anywhere the wind blows.
Nice.
No, I'm kidding. You can't.
Nice.
You can find me at On Second Thought. Again, links
beautiful.
in the description to find the link tree and all the different ways there. Working on making a couple of changes to where you can find me, but that's slow going. So for now, On Second Thoughts, the play. You can find all of the links to all of our individual pages in the description below. And you can also find links to all of the One with the Films pages as well. There's also a Google form in there that you can fill out if there's a specific creator or film you'd love to see on the podcast. Let us know. We can reach out to them and find. And you can reach out to them as well and go, hey, go on with the films. We need you. We love you. But we have guests booked up until the new year right now. So stick around. We've got a lot of films coming your way. A lot of guests coming your way. So it's going to be awesome. And like we said, you can find One with the Films on Instagram and TikTok. And all of your favorite podcasting platforms. But for now, as promised, feast your eyes on the next film of the weekly watch list.
Well. What do we have here? It's me, the facts guy, Star Wars facts guy, the fact guy, Soup Slayer, Darth Pooh, whatever you want to call me. I don't really care. You know me, I talk about Star Wars, I talk about a whole bunch of things, but these guys, One with the Films, they want me to introduce their next movie and their next guest. I'm doing double duty. So, let's have a look. It's a cute little envelope here. To Tate. You know, these guys are One with the Films. They're unpacking cinema and its legacy. They look at cinema as an art form. They look at the structural integrity of the medium and how it permeates through our social culture and changes the world around us. These guys change the game. That's why I know the next game-changing film is going to be Transformers 4? Well, hold on. Oh, the Seventh Seal. My bad. Oh, that was dangerous. That was risky. And it says here that the next guest is it's me. Wait, that wasn't in the script.